Okay, let's have a little fun and see if we can get to the truth of the matter about a few things. Someone sent me a link to a very short article that someone wrote about Nikon. And look, I made a lot of attack videos on Nikon for some of the really stupid, really dumb things that Nikon does. I mean, they've made a few commercials like the past couple of years using that douchebag Ashton Kutcher from Dude, Where's My Car? You see, those aren't the type of commercials that you post to inspire people. It's like, oh, that looks like a brain-dead, pot-smoking D-bag, and he's one of the commercial spokespersons for Nikon. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to buy one of those cameras. They actually should have shown some hardcore professionals, like with frostbite on their fingertips, out in the wild capturing pictures of beasts, in their native habitat, or, some radical photography of hanging over a volcano or something. Stuff like that. Nikon should fire their commercial advertising department. I mean, I don't even drink, but I could get half drunk and make commercials 100 times better than that, and I'm not even a videographer. God. But anyway, I read this article, and this is true of any field. We give a lot of credence to people that have supposed cred, but that doesn't really mean that they have a damn thing that's intelligent to say ultimately on a lot of different topics. Sometimes Nikola Tesla was one of the smartest men who ever lived, was asked questions, and he said some of the craziest crap you could ever think. It's like, what the hell did you say? You don't ask Betty Crocker about field theory, and you don't ask Nikola Tesla about, social mores, because the two are ducks out of water. Anyway, this person writes books and like field manuals on Nikon stuff, and he's very highly regarded, but he wrote a really unintelligent, very stupid, and error upon error article against Nikon. And I'm nobody to defend Nikon. I mean, like I said, I've slapped them around 9 ways to Sunday for stupid things. And by the way, someone else recently sent me the Twitter page of a famous blogger who Nikon is kind of having going around doing things with another Nikon ambassador. And man, I read this guy's Twitter page, and he says some of the most vile, disgusting things I could ever imagine, talking about euthanizing children that are slightly off. I mean, the sort of eugenic garbage and trash of like playing God and like killing off little, just that's, oh my God. I mean, ew, just vile, disgusting stuff. And people have no idea what some of these supposed heroes of theirs actually say. They think I'm angry, I'm rude or something. Some of the people that are actually truly vile, the people that have like the whips and chains and, the nasty, fetish stuff in their basement, those are the people that you think they're really cool. I mean, they're not people like me, Anyway, let's get on to this article that this fool wrote on Nikon, and let's just examine how smart it is. It's basically kind of mirrorless versus DSLR. And let's say, let me find a quote here. Canon and Nikon are dragging their DSLR systems into the modern world, i.e. Snapbridge, blah, blah, blah. But slow operating world. Meanwhile, we watch Fujifilm, Hasselblad, and Leica and Sony successfully reinvent themselves for the modern world of digital photography. So, buddy, your premise is that the fastest damn sports, action, and wildlife camera on Earth, like the D500, for example, needs to be reinvented? I mean, is that your premise? So we're going to take something that is current perfection, and there's no such thing as a perfect camera. I've said that 100 times. So is that what needs to be reinvented? Look, I've got a crap load of Fuji stuff. My God, Fuji's got a lot of my money. I got a lot of mirrorless stuff. I've obviously got a lot more Nikon stuff. But I mean, is that your argument? That doesn't work. Meanwhile, Canon and Nikon just continue to spit out the same old DSLRs as usual. Yeah, do you know why they do? Because the shit works. And it's the fastest shit out there. Yeah, okay, so no modern camera company is going to compete with it doesn't matter if it's Sony, Fuji, Nikon, anybody. they're not gonna compete with the douchebag world of iPhone photography. Oh, and here's another example which is incorrect. While Tesla, meaning Tesla the car, Google and Apple, I know Apple really well because I was #1 in the world for tech support on the MacBook Air, and I can prove it. Just go to discussion.apple.com. I think I'm ranked #4 now because I haven't done it in over a year and a half. And a handful of other upstarts are trying to make a 21st century automobile. He's trying to basically say that mirrorless and Sony and all these other guys are kind of like Nikola Tesla. They're reinventing themselves to the future. Well, let's just take a look at that BS. Let's take a look at the Tesla car, for example. So your analogy is a Tesla car. While that car is electric and some of these flatus sniffing smug morons like I used to live around in San Francisco think that, well, it's green, it's PC car, it doesn't, No, the electricity that feeds that car still comes from fossil fuels, be it nuclear or regular fossil fuels, gas, oil, or coal. So yeah, the Tesla car is electrically charged, but it still comes from fossil fuels or nuclear. And they hate fossil fuels and nukes. So that's your analogy too? You see any Tesla cars on the racetrack? No. So that's your analogy. Here's an ancient truism that holds true. The last days of old technology, and they're certainly not the last days in this case, are always, always, always better, far, far better, than the newest days of new technology, i.e. mirrorless. Just because something's old technology. You can't reinvent the hammer, for example. You can't reinvent the hammer. So I'm actually siding with, I'm not making a DSLR versus mirrorless debate here. I'm saying both are valid. But I'm going to continue to quote this article and let you see what a pile of BS this is. It's that, that Nikon is like some old coot. Like, he's basically kind of saying that Nikon is turning into an Amish person that doesn't want to use, going to put on a straw hat and ride a horse and buggy so far as technology is concerned. High-priced super megapixel DSLRs look less interesting with a Hasselblad, that new medium format mirrorless Hasselblad, at one end of the spectrum, and the Sony on the other end of the spectrum. Well, let's take a look at that. I found out that a lot of people, including, this guy's not a YouTube photography guy, by the way. A lot of people don't even know what the hell a medium format digital is for. The files are the most ginormous pain in the crotch. I mean, I got a quad-core processor and 32 gig of RAM. The files on that will just choke my computer to death. It'll even choke up Apple's trash can computer with 64 gig of RAM on it. Those cameras are not designed for street photography. I mean, there are actually like a dozen people in the world that actually use one of those type of, not that specific camera, for street photography because they want to be cool and hip. The files are enormous. They are meant for a few things only: commercial work and product photography. Commercial and product and limited portraiture for magazines. The files are huge. The notion that you're going to buy a medium format camera, and it's not a true, the Hasselblad is not even a true medium format, and go out and just take regular pictures. I would love to see anybody hook their computer up to that camera and even try to, their computer will twitch and drool on itself, and how when a person dies they poo themselves. That's what your computer do. It'll twitch and drool and die and poo itself, even messing with those files. It's ridiculous. So your premise is that your comparison is that a camera that's designed for a commercial and product photography on one end, on the other end you got a Sony, which is an overheating toy made by a consumer electronics company. Did you know that Sony stock was declared junk status in the fourth quarter of 2014, the first quarter of 2015? Nikon has 70 years, well more than that actually, and billions of dollars in glass and camera manufacturing companies in several different countries, excuse me. Compared to Sony, which was declared, you want to talk about survival? Let's talk about survival. You know, everything that Sony is so famous for has already been destroyed and dominated by somebody else. It used to be in the computers, no more. TV sets, no more. You know, cassette players and Walkmans, all that crap has gone the way of the dinosaurs. I mean, Sony is a consumer electronics. So, okay, so that's your comparison there. You know, the company that makes PlayStations for pot-smoking douchebags sitting on the couch eating Cheetos versus a real camera company. So that's the comparison you want to go. Okay, Canon and Nikon can't let this go on for too long, or else here's the good one. Find themselves walled in by all the products that modernized while they milked the cows. So this is the best statement of all of them. Let's take a look at that again. Nikon's going to find themselves walled off like in a city. You know, they walled themselves off in a city. Where they didn't modernize while they were milking the cows. So here we got like an Amish person milking, you know, grabbing cow tits. You know, milking a cow. Well, let's work with that analogy, okay? Well, let's just take a second. Let's take a look at the Nikon D500. So Nikon is milking the Nikon D500 cow, which blasts 10 frames per second with a near bottomless buffer with the fastest sports and action autofocus on Earth. I'm sorry, buddy. You know, this guy writes manuals for Nikon. So your analogy is that Nikon is squeezing cow tits that's squirting milk faster than a damn machine gun. Faster and better and faster autofocus than any of the modernized, you know, futuristic crap that you're talking about. You know, let me ask you a question, buddy, not the people who are watching this video, the idiot that wrote this article. Why don't you point me to the modern camera that is using these damn cards? You know, okay, let's take a look at the old cow that Nikon is milking here. You know, let's take a look at your modern cameras, either be it Sony or Fuji or Olympus. Tell me which one of them are milking a card like this with these sort of transfer speeds. Kiss my ass. I mean, this is the analogy this dude's pounding. Nikon's screwed. They're like an old Amish. He didn't say Amish, but that's the imagery. Nikon's just some idiot that's walled himself off in the gate, and he's like milking old cow tits, and, you know, he just can't join the modern age. So your cow from Sony or Fuji, or anyone else that's rocking those SD cards, okay, let's whip out an SD card, a secondary slot here, okay, versus an XQD card that Nikon's using. Is that your analogy? So this is by the way, whatever you think of Diaper and Pee Review, and I don't really have that much respect for them, this is the highest rated camera that they've ever rated. You know, the sports action, wildlife, and autofocus on this camera will just make you want to slap your mother. And this is what this person is basically calling Nikon, you know, in a gate, you know, milking old cow tits. They didn't modernize. Well, they're sitting there milking the cow. See, milking a cow is kind of an American analogy for some old fart that, like, you know, just like hasn't joined the future yet, man. It's like, you're living in the past, dude. I'm sorry, but when you take a mirror out of a camera, that is not modernizing. And by the way, the cameras aren't any smaller. Optics are still huge. They chew up a lot of batteries. I don't care about that. I like the Fuji because it's one of the best damn cameras I ever used. I didn't buy it because it's a mirrorless camera. I bought it in many of its systems and tons of its lenses because it's incredible. But I mean, it's not going to step to this for autofocus, buffer, speed. The X-T2 is going to be a serious improvement. Serious improvement. It's going to even be better than the X Pro 2. I know what the X-T2 is going to be. So, you know, you know, and people believe people like this. Like, well, that dude's got a lot of credibility. He's written books on Nikons, and, you know, he tests a lot of stuff, and he's well regarded. There were people like that were well regarded that were making countless millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars every month. The head of IBM, the head of Hewlett-Packard, these people were literally making $100,000 a day, some of them. And they destroyed the company. They destroyed it. See, people turn some people into God figures. You're like, this dude's written a bunch of books on Nikon. I mean, who the hell are you to say, you know, this guy knows more than you? No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Just because you've got a lot of empirical knowledge doesn't mean you have any damn wisdom. SnapBridge is an amateurish attempt at communication. Well, Nikon and Sony and Fuji and all the rest of them, you know, they want to join the iPhone world of douchebag photography. You know, well, screw me, you know, I don't want to transfer an enormous raw file through my iPhone, and it's not even possible anyway. So who the hell wants me to send them a raw file? And I sure as hell don't shoot JPEGs. I shoot raw plus fine, JPEG fines, but you know, it's just a BS attempt to imitate the iPhone functionality. You know, professional photographers on location need three things. They need an iPhone to transfer files, like if they're out, you know, in the woods somewhere where they got cell phone service. They'll take the card out, stick it in their computer, and they'll transfer the raw file or whatever file it is they want through their hotlink connection or their hotspot connection. So all of this nonsense that like Nikon is like living in the past, you know, and you know, they're just like an old coot milking cows' tits, you know, with a hunk of straw hanging out the side of their mouth like some Arkansas hayseed. You know, this article's crap. You know, everybody, you know, gets it wrong here and there. Nobody's perfect, so I'm not attacking this person for writing a total BS article, but this article's BS. Nikon is sitting on a crap load of cash. They've got glass factories and camera factories. They've done a lot of stupid stuff too, especially like turning some of their customers into beta testers. Now, like I've attacked Nikon for every stupid little dumb thing that they've done, or at least a lot of it. But this article is BS. You know, the notion that Nikon, the whole premise of this BS article is that Nikon is basically a backwards hillbilly redneck milking cows' tits while everybody else is like got cybernetic implants and riding around in driverless electric cars. You know, you show me some of the modern cameras that could even touch this for buffer, autofocus speed, low light. No. Why don't you show me your damn Sony that's got an XQD card in it? By the way, Sony's the people that came up with the XQD card, but they don't use it in their own cameras. Ha ha ha, that makes a lot of sense, right? Nikon's like, by the way, can we use that super awesome fast card that you're not using in anything? Well, actually, Sony does use it in a couple of their video cameras. You know, you know, you bird lovers are, you know, or they're drooling on themselves over this camera because it's so fast. The low light autofocus, the buffer, the basically bottomless buffer. You know, why don't you go show me any modern point and crap camera or any modernized camera that can do what this camera can do. You know, so don't give me this BS that, you know, it is not mirrorless versus DSLR. You know, the lack of or the presence of a mirror doesn't mean something is old technology. You know, in the Tesla car analogy, you know, this goofball used to talk about a Tesla car. You don't see a Tesla car at the racetrack, do you? Boy. Do you see, you know, I used to live behind the Daytona 500 where I went to school in photography school. You know, there still aren't any Tesla cars at the Daytona 500 because that crap don't work. Long distance, high speed, no. No, it does not. There is still something called mirrorless lag. There's no lag here. Simplicity is divinity. It's like, well, we can circumvent like a billion tons of electronics just by sticking a reflex mirror in this thing. You will see the image instantly. So anyway, this article's BS. Someone sent me this article today. I wanted to rant about it because it was so full of stupidity and errors and just dumb nonsense. But people give this guy tons of cred because he writes books on Nikon and stuff. You know, I'm not giving him down the road. I'm sure he's a nice person, whatever. But that article is just baloney. It is just bull hockey. You know, it's like, yeah, this is the camera that was designed by a dumb corn farmer milking cows' tits, analogously. Well, the corn farmer must have done pretty good because he's got billions of dollars in solvency, and this is the fastest autofocus. It's got a basically bottomless buffer, and it'll make you go, oh my God. So I just call BS on that article. Okay? Thanks. That was my rant.